In the endless dark of space, the Galactic Council gathered inside their shining hall of crystal and steel. The air was tense, filled with whispers of fear. For weeks, every race in the Council had waited for Earth's answer. The humans had been silent, and silence was dangerous. Delegates sat in tall seats shaped like thrones, their glowing eyes or scaled faces watching the center of the chamber. At the middle stood a long, silver table where a single chair waited, empty. That chair was for Earth. The Zaran delegate, his body covered in golden armor that grew from his skin, leaned forward. "They must accept the treaty," he hissed. "If humans refuse, the balance will break. War will spread like fire." A Kalari with liquid blue skin shook her head slowly. "Humans are unpredictable. They smile when they are weak, and strike when you least expect. I told you, they will not bow." A deep silence followed. Everyone remembered what humans had done before. 100 years ago, when pirates attacked Earth's first colonies, humans had not begged for help. They had built fleets, old and ugly ships, but filled with courage. And with those fleets, they had burned the pirate armadas to ash. The galaxy still whispered about that war. Now, the Council demanded something even harder. Humans must give up control of their outer colonies, hand them to the Council for safety. But Earth had not answered. Days passed. The chair in the chamber remained empty. Then, suddenly, the giant doors opened. Heavy footsteps echoed across the shining floor. A single human walked in. He was tall, dressed in a black uniform with silver lines, his face calm but his eyes sharp as blades. His name was Admiral Elias Kane, chosen to speak for Earth. Every alien eye turned to him. Some felt fear. Some felt anger. Others tried to hide their unease. Humans had always made them uncomfortable, because they never seemed afraid of anything. Kane sat slowly in the chair. He placed a small black case on the table, but did not open it. He looked around the hall. His voice, when he spoke, was calm, but it carried through the chamber like thunder. "You call this a treaty," he said. "But this is no treaty. This is surrender." The Zaran delegate slammed his armored fist on the table. "You misunderstand. The Council only wishes peace. If humans give up control of those colonies, no wars will come." Kane's eyes narrowed. "You mean no wars, for you. You want Earth to kneel. You want our children to live under your flags, not ours. That will never happen." Gasps filled the hall. The Kalari delegate leaned forward, her voice soft but cold. "You must understand, Admiral. Refusal means isolation. If Earth stands against the Council, every member world will turn against you. Trade will end. Borders will close. Fleets will move." Kane's hand touched the black case. He tapped it once with his finger. The sound was small, but it echoed in the silence. "You believe we fear isolation? You believe we fear war?" His voice grew harder. "You forget who we are. We are the ones who survived alone when no one came. We are the ones who turned ruins into cities. And if you think we will hand over our colonies, then you have already chosen war." The Council chamber froze. Delegates whispered in panic. Some shouted that this was madness, others that humanity must be stopped before it grew too strong. But Kane did not move. He opened the black case. Inside was a single data crystal. He placed it on the table, and the crystal lit up. A projection filled the air above the table, an image of massive ships rising from Earth's shipyards. Human ships, bigger and stronger than before, built in silence, hidden from the Council's spies. The alien delegates stared in shock. Dozens of carriers, fleets of destroyers, whole armadas being prepared. Humanity had not been silent because they were weak. They had been silent because they were ready. Kane stood up, leaving the crystal glowing. His voice was final. "Negotiations are over. If the Council wants war, then war will come. But know this, humanity does not start wars. Humanity ends them." The chamber erupted in chaos. Shouts, screams, desperate calls filled the air. But Kane was already walking out. The heavy doors closed behind him, and the echo of his footsteps faded. Inside the chamber, fear spread like wildfire. The Council had hoped to control Earth. Instead, they had awakened something far worse. The humans had ended the negotiations. And now, everyone knew, the galaxy stood at the edge of war. The stars over Earth burned cold and distant, but deep within the planet's orbit, fire was alive. The shipyards around Earth glowed like floating cities, where thousands of humans worked day and night. Sparks rained from metal frames, engines roared in testing chambers, and hulls of warships stretched out like mountains in space. Humanity was preparing, not for defense, but for survival. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the observation deck of the United Earth Command. The giant glass wall before him showed Earth, blue and shining, with the shipyards glittering like jewels. But Kane's eyes were not on the beauty of his homeworld. His eyes were on the fleets under construction. The Council would not wait long. He knew this. The moment he walked out of that chamber, war became certain. Behind him, footsteps approached. A woman's voice broke the silence. "You left them shaking, Elias. Some call you a fool. Others call you a monster. But none of them saw what I saw, their fear." Kane turned. General Sophia Malik, commander of Earth's ground forces, stood there in her dark uniform. Her face was scarred from old battles, and her sharp eyes burned with the same fire as Kane's. "They will come," Kane said simply. "They always do," Malik replied. "And when they come, they think we will be alone. They think no one will stand with us." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "But the galaxy forgets, Elias. Not all species obey the Council. Some remember what it means to be free. Some still owe humanity a debt." Kane raised an eyebrow. "Allies." Malik nodded. "Whispers, nothing more. The Dreth clans on the edge of the rim. The Vayari, the old traitors. Even some Kalari who despise their council leaders. They watch us. They wait to see if we stand tall or kneel." Kane turned back to the window, his reflection staring at him like a shadow. "Then we must make them believe. We must show them humanity will not kneel." Far away, in the Council's central world, panic had already taken root. The delegates had returned to their private chambers, but the memory of the humans' words spread faster than fire. In underground halls, leaders whispered, afraid to admit the truth. The Zarin delegate pounded his claws against a steel wall, his golden armor clattering with rage. "We cannot allow humans to grow further. Every year they expand, every year they build. They must be crushed now, before it is too late." The Kalari delegate shook her head, her voice trembling. "Crushed? You speak as if they are weak. Did you not see their fleets? They were ready while we slept. If we attack, the war will burn across every star." A cold voice entered the chamber. It was the voice of the Council's High Arbiter, a shadowy figure who ruled above them all. "The choice has already been made," the Arbiter said. "Earth has ended negotiations. Humanity has chosen war. And so, war it shall be." The delegates fell silent. The Arbiter's word was final. The Council fleets would soon gather. Back on Earth, preparations moved faster. Human engineers tested weapons never before revealed. Mass drivers the size of towers, railguns that could pierce battleships in one strike, swarms of drones controlled by a single mind. Each ship that left the dock was more advanced than the last. Still, Kane knew numbers were against them. The Council controlled thousands of worlds, billions of soldiers, fleets so large they could block out the stars. Humanity had only Earth and its colonies. Their numbers were fewer, but their spirit was iron. Night fell over the command station. Kane sat alone in his chamber, staring at maps of the galaxy. Red markers showed Council fleets gathering near their borders. The storm was coming faster than he expected. His comms device beeped. A secret channel. Kane accepted. The screen flickered to life, revealing a face that was not human. It was Dreth. The alien's skin was gray and ridged, his eyes glowing like molten stone. His voice was deep and harsh. "Human," the Dreth said. "You stand against the council. Good. We too have no love for their chains." Kane's eyes narrowed. "You want an alliance?" The Dreth grinned, sharp teeth flashing. "Not yet. First, we watch. We see if you survive the first strike. If you bleed and still fight, then we will join. If you fall, we will forget you ever lived." The screen went dark. Kane leaned back in his chair. He knew the truth: humanity stood alone. But he also knew something the Dreth did not. Humanity had always fought alone. And every time, they had risen stronger. Far beyond the borders of Earth, the first council fleets were already moving. Giant armadas of alien ships cut through space, their weapons armed, their banners raised. They came not as peacekeepers, but as conquerors. The war had not yet begun, but the galaxy already trembled. Humanity had ended the negotiations, and now the countdown to the first strike had started. The first strike did not come with warning. It came like thunder. In the dark silence between the stars, the Council's fleets appeared. Thousands of ships breaking out of faster-than-light jumps. Their hulls glowed with alien energy, their weapons already charged. They spread across the black like a storm front, a wall of fire moving toward humanity's colonies. The first target was not Earth. The Council was clever. They aimed at the outlying colonies, the ones with fewer defenses. The message was clear: surrender now, or watch your people burn. On Nova Elysium, a green world filled with forests and oceans, alarms screamed as the Council fleet entered orbit. The colonists ran to shelters, but they knew shelters would not save them. Above, battleships the size of mountains aimed their cannons down at the planet. But the Council was not ready for what waited there. High above the colony, hidden in the shadows of its 2 moons, a human fleet powered up. Carriers, destroyers, and cruisers rose like steel giants, their hulls black to hide against the void. 4 weeks, they had been waiting. At the center of this fleet was the carrier Resolute, commanded by Captain Eric Voss. His voice cut through the comms like a blade. "All ships, battle stations. No retreat. Today, we show them Earth does not kneel." The first Council battleship opened fire, a beam of searing plasma cutting through space. It struck the colony's shields, shaking the ground below. The colonists screamed as the sky lit with fire. "Return fire," Voss ordered. The human fleet came alive. Railguns fired, launching metal slugs faster than light. Torpedoes streaked across the black. Drones swarmed forward, small but deadly, slamming into alien shields. The first human strike hit hard. A Council destroyer exploded in a burst of fire, its pieces falling like burning rain across the void. The aliens had not expected resistance so strong, not here, not in this colony. But the Council had numbers. More ships pushed forward, surrounding the humans from every side. Alien beams tore through the dark, blasting holes into human ships. A cruiser near the Resolute cracked open, flames spilling into the void as it fell silent. "Hold the line," Voss shouted. His hands were tight on the command rail, but his eyes never wavered. For every human ship destroyed, another alien ship fell. For every strike the Council made, humanity struck back harder. The void became a storm of fire, a battlefield where death moved in silence. Down on the colony, the people watched through the skies. They saw their defenders fight like demons, outnumbered but unbroken. Children clutched their parents, whispering prayers to the fleet above. Then, suddenly, the battlefield shifted. A Council dreadnought entered orbit. It was massive, its hull covered in spikes of glowing energy. Its cannons were large enough to split a mountain in half. One shot from it, and the colony would die. On the Resolute, alarms screamed. "Dreadnought detected," the officers shouted. Voss's face hardened. He opened the fleet channel. "All ships, concentrate fire on that dreadnought. If it reaches the colony, everything ends. The human fleet turned its guns. Railguns roared, torpedoes streaked, drones swarmed in waves. They struck the dreadnought's shields again and again. The dreadnought fired once. A beam cut through the void, smashing a human destroyer into nothing but debris. Another shot followed, carving through a carrier. The fleet shook under its power. But humanity did not stop. They pushed harder. The Resolute's railguns glowed white with heat as they fired slug after slug. The dreadnought's shields flickered, weakened, then cracked. Now! Voss roared. A final wave of torpedoes slammed into the dreadnought's heart. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the giant exploded, tearing itself apart in a fireball that lit the void like a newborn star. The colonists below cheered. The human fleet, battered and broken, had destroyed the largest ship in the Council's first wave. But the victory came at a terrible price. Half the fleet was gone. Hundreds of lives lost. And still, more Council ships gathered at the edge of the system. Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his face lit by the fire of distant explosions. His voice was low, but every officer heard him. This is only the beginning. They will come again, with more. But today we proved one thing. Humanity will not break. Across the galaxy, the news spread. The Council's first strike had failed. For the first time in centuries, the Council had tasted defeat. And every world, ally or enemy, now knew. The humans would fight, no matter the cost. The Council had tasted defeat, and they did not forgive. The destruction of their dreadnought at Nova Elysium was like a knife to their pride. Never before had one of their war machines fallen to an outnumbered enemy. The Council's chambers burned with rage. Delegates shouted, armies were summoned, fleets were ordered to gather. The High Arbiter's voice silenced them all. Cold and calm, it echoed through the chamber. Send the Second Armada. No hesitation. No mercy. Crush their colonies. Break their fleets. Burn their courage. Let them understand, they cannot resist the Council. And so the Second Armada moved. It was larger, darker, and filled with weapons the galaxy rarely saw. Titans, ships as big as cities, led the way. Behind them, swarms of destroyers, carriers, and assault craft. Their path was clear: destroy humanity before their defiance spread to others. On Earth, the news of Nova Elysium's victory spread like wildfire. Across the colonies, people cheered, banners waved, and songs were sung. But inside United Earth Command, there was no celebration. Admiral Elias Kane knew what was coming. Victories in war always drew greater storms. He stood before a massive star map, red lights blinking at the edges. Each red light was a Council fleet on the move. Dozens of them. All heading toward human space. General Sophia Malik entered the chamber, her boots striking the floor. They're bringing everything, she said grimly. The Council wants to end us in one blow. Kane nodded. Then we won't give them one blow. We'll make them fight for every world, every star, every inch of space. If they want war, we'll give them hell. The Council's Second Armada struck first at the colony of Helios Prime. A desert world rich in minerals, its mines powered half of Earth's fleets. If it fell, humanity's shipyards would starve. The Armada arrived in silence, black shadows covering the skies. The colonists looked up and saw death hanging above their world. Then the fire began. Massive plasma cannons rained down. Cities turned to glass. Mines collapsed. Thousands died in moments. Helios Prime's defenses fought back, but the Armada's power was overwhelming. From Earth, Kane received the desperate transmissions. Screams. Static. The sound of worlds dying. He listened with a stone face, his fists clenched behind his back. Send reinforcements. Malik asked. Kane shook his head. We can't. Not yet. If we split our fleets now, they'll crush us one by one. We must choose our ground carefully. It was a hard choice. Humanity could not save every colony. Some would fall. But every fall would make the survivors fight harder. At Helios Prime, the defenders fought to the last. Mining ships, converted into war machines, rammed council destroyers. Colonists with rifles battled armored troops in the burning streets. Their resistance lasted only days, but those days slowed the council's advance. And when the last human fell, the message they left behind was clear: we do not kneel. The galaxy watched. Across distant stars, other species whispered. The Dreth clans sharpened their blades. The Vayari merchants counted their fleets. Even within the Kalari, voices rose against their leaders. The humans were losing ground, but they were not broken. And that strength stirred something dangerous in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Kane stood before the people in a broadcast that reached every colony, every soldier, every ship. His voice was steady, carved from steel. The Council thinks they can burn us into dust. They think fear will break us. They think we will kneel. He paused, his eyes burning. But they are wrong. We will not kneel. We will fight. For every world they burn, we will build 10 more. For every ship they destroy, we will forge 20 more. We are humanity. And we do not break. The speech spread like fire. Colonists lifted weapons. Soldiers swore oaths. Workers in shipyards pushed harder, building ships faster. Children drew pictures of fleets and whispered of victory. Humanity's spirit, instead of breaking, grew sharper. But Kane knew spirit alone could not win. Numbers mattered. Weapons mattered. Allies mattered. And humanity was still alone. Then, one night, as Kane studied the star maps in silence, a new transmission arrived. Not from Earth. Not from any colony. From deep space. The screen flickered, and a face appeared, alien, scarred, fierce. It was the Dreth once more. Their leader's voice was like rolling thunder. You still stand, human. You bleed, but you fight. Good. The clans are watching. And some are ready to join. For the first time in days, Kane allowed himself a small, grim smile. The Council thought war would break humanity. Instead, it was waking the galaxy. The Second Armada had struck hard, but the war was only beginning. And now, humanity might not be alone. The galaxy had changed. The Council's Second Armada had burned Helios Prime to ash, but its cruelty had spread more than fear. It had spread anger. And anger was dangerous. In the far rim, the Dreth clans gathered in their war forges. Huge ships, scarred from endless clan battles, were reforged with new weapons. For centuries, the clans had fought only each other, too proud to bow to any council. But now, for the first time, they had a common enemy. And humanity had earned their respect. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the Atlas, Earth's largest flagship. Before him, the stars stretched cold and endless. He waited, silent, as the Dreth fleet appeared from hyperspace. Dozens of massive warships filled the void, their dark hulls covered in jagged armor. From their lead ship, a transmission came through. The Dreth leader, Korak Bloodfang, appeared on the screen. His eyes glowed like fire, and his voice rumbled like stone. Human. We have watched. We have tested your courage. You bleed, but you do not kneel. Today, the clans stand with you. Today, your enemies are our enemies. Kane's jaw tightened. He gave a short nod. Then today, the galaxy changes. The alliance was sealed not with papers or promises, but with a single iron truth: survival. Humanity and the Dreth now stood together. They would not have to wait long to prove it. The Council's fleets were already on the move again. Their next target, Ceres Station, a massive orbital hub where Earth's fleets refueled and resupplied. If Ceres fell, humanity's defenses would crumble. The Council Armada arrived first, a tide of ships blotting out the stars. Carriers released swarms of fighters, dreadnoughts powered up their cannons, and troop transports prepared to descend. But this time, humanity was not alone. The Dreth clans emerged from hyperspace with a roar of engines, their jagged warships cutting through the dark like blades. Their arrival was timed perfectly, and together with the human fleet, they fell upon the Council armada like wolves on prey. The battle for Ceres Station began. Railguns thundered from human ships, each shot tearing through alien shields. Dreth warships rammed into Council destroyers, their brutal tactics shattering enemy lines. Fighters from both species swarmed together, covering each other in deadly patterns. On the bridge of the Atlas, Kane stood calm, his voice cutting through the chaos. Focus fire on their carriers. Break their launch bays. Cut off their swarms. On the Dreth flagship, Korak roared his own command. No mercy. Break their bones and burn their steel. The Council fought back with fury. Plasma beams carved through Dreth ships, tearing open their jagged hulls. A human cruiser was split in half, its broken pieces tumbling through space. The battle became a storm of fire and wreckage, victory balanced on a knife's edge. Then the Council released their hidden weapon. From the heart of their fleet, a massive Titan ship moved forward. Its hull was black as night, its cannons glowing with power stolen from dying stars. One shot from it struck a Dreth warship, vaporizing it in an instant. The battlefield froze in horror. The Titan was unlike anything they had faced before. Kane's eyes narrowed. He knew if the Titan reached Ceres, everything would be lost. All ships, he ordered, concentrate fire. Bring it down. The Titan roared, unleashing beams that shredded human destroyers. Dreth ships rammed it, but its armor held. Railgun slugs hammered its shields, but they burned without breaking. On the Atlas, alarms screamed. The Titan's main cannon was charging again, aimed directly at Ceres Station. Kane's voice was cold steel. We're out of time. All forward units, follow me. We end this now. The Atlas surged ahead, its railguns firing at full power. The Dreth flagship joined beside it, Korak's war cry echoing through the comms. Together, the two flagships charged the Titan head-on. They closed the distance under heavy fire, their shields cracking, their hulls tearing. But they did not stop. At the last moment, both unleashed their strongest weapons. The Atlas's railguns tore through the Titan's shield core. The Dreth flagship's massive plasma ram drove straight into the Titan's hull. The black giant shuddered, its cannons flickering. Then, with a scream of tearing metal, it exploded in a fireball so bright it lit the void for miles. The Council armada faltered. Their Titan was gone, their carriers burning, their lines broken. Humanity and the Dreth pressed the attack, hammering the enemy until the survivors fled into the dark. Ceres Station was saved. On the bridge of the Atlas, silence filled the air. Then cheers erupted. Officers shouted, soldiers embraced, the victory echoing across every channel. Kane did not cheer. His eyes stayed on the stars where the Council fleets had retreated. This is not the end, he said quietly. This is only the first victory. They will come back stronger. And so must we. Across the galaxy, the message spread, humanity was not alone anymore. The Dreth had joined them. And together, they had destroyed a Council Titan. The war was far from over. But for the first time, hope burned brighter than fear. The Council had been humiliated again. The destruction of their Titan at Ceres Station shook the galaxy. The Council was supposed to be invincible, yet humanity and their new Dreth allies had proven otherwise. And worse, other species were watching. In hidden chambers, whispers spread. The Vayari traders, long silent, now spoke of joining the humans. Some Kalari broke away from their leaders, sending secret aid. Even smaller races, long crushed by the Council, began to rise in rebellion. The High Arbiter saw the danger clearly. If humanity's defiance spread, the Council would lose control of the galaxy. It could not be allowed. And so the Arbiter gave the order, unleash the Eclipse. The Eclipse was not a fleet. It was not an army. It was a weapon older than the Council itself, built in the forgotten wars of the ancients. A superweapon, hidden in the void for centuries, powered by stolen stars. Few in the galaxy even believed it was real. But the council had guarded it in secret, waiting for the day it was needed. Now that day had come. Far from Earth, in the darkness beyond mapped space, the eclipse awoke. It was a fortress the size of a moon, its surface covered in black steel and endless cannons. At its heart, a weapon capable of tearing entire planets apart. When word reached Earth, fear rippled through every colony. Humanity had faced fleets, dreadnoughts, even titans, but this was different. This was extinction. Admiral Elias Kane stood in the War Council chamber, his officers gathered around the holographic projection of the eclipse. Its black form rotated slowly, like a shadow against the stars. General Malik broke the silence. One shot from that thing, and Earth is gone. We can't fight it head-on. We need a plan. Kane's voice was low, but firm. We've fought giants before. We'll fight this one too. But this time, we won't do it alone. Across the galaxy, allies answered the call. The Dreth clans swore to fight to the death. The Vayari sent fleets of sleek warships, their weapons hidden until now. Even rebel Kalari joined, their sleek blue vessels cutting ties with their council masters. For the first time in history, the council faced not one enemy, but many. And at the center of it all stood humanity. The fleets gathered in the darkness near Proxima Gate, the last line before Earth. Ships filled the void, human carriers, Dreth warcruisers, Vayari skirmishers, Kalari frigates. It was not a single fleet, it was a storm. And into that storm came the eclipse. The fortress moved slowly, but its power was endless. Its first strike shattered an asteroid the size of a mountain, reducing it to dust in seconds. Its second strike tore through a Vayari cruiser, erasing it without a trace. The Allied fleets opened fire, unleashing everything they had. Railguns thundered, plasma beams burned, swarms of fighters dove at the black surface. Explosions rippled across the eclipse's hull, but its shields held. On the Atlas, Kane stood at the command rail, his voice calm over the chaos. Keep pressure on its flanks. Don't give it time to charge. But the eclipse was too strong. Its cannons swept the battlefield, cutting through Dreth warships and Kalari frigates. Entire squadrons vanished in its fire. On the Dreth flagship, Korak roared with fury. This beast will not stand. Clans, with me. His warships charged, ramming into the eclipse's shields again and again, trying to break them. But each one was torn apart, flames spilling into the void. Kane's jaw tightened. Numbers alone would not win. They needed something more. Something bold. Then General Malik's voice cut through the comms. We can't kill it from the outside. We need to strike its heart. Kane's eyes sharpened. It was madness, but it was also the only way. Boarding action, he said. The plan spread instantly. While the fleets kept the eclipse busy, a strike force of human marines and Dreth warriors would breach the fortress itself. They would fight through its endless halls, reach the core, and destroy the weapon from within. The galaxy held its breath as drop ships launched from the Atlas. Tiny against the eclipse's massive form, they streaked across the void under heavy fire. Some were destroyed, but others broke through, slamming into the fortress's hull. Inside, the real battle began. Human marines in black armor stormed the steel corridors, rail rifles blazing. Dreth warriors charged beside them, axes and plasma cannons tearing through alien defenders. The halls shook with fire and blood. At the center of the strike force was General Malik. Her voice rang through the comms as they fought deeper inside. We're close to the core. Hold the line. No matter the cost. Back in orbit, the fleets fought desperately to hold the eclipse's fire. Ships exploded one after another, the battlefield littered with wreckage. But they bought time for the strike force to reach the weapon's heart. The eclipse burned brighter, its core glowing with the power of dying stars. Its weapon was almost ready to fire again, this time at Earth itself. On the Atlas, Kane's hands tightened into fists. Malik, you must succeed. Earth depends on it. The fate of humanity, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now rested inside the black heart of the eclipse. Inside the eclipse, the halls shook with thunder. Human marines and Dreth warriors pushed forward, their boots striking steel floors slick with smoke and blood. Alarms screamed in alien tongues, red lights flashing as defenders poured in from every side. General Sophia Malik led from the front, her armor scorched but her eyes sharp. She fired her rifle in short bursts, cutting down enemies as she shouted orders. "Keep moving. The core is ahead. Nothing stops us now." The strike force fought like demons. Dreth axes split armored soldiers in two. Human rifles spat fire down the halls. Grenades shook the fortress, ripping holes in its defenses. But for every enemy that fell, 10 more came. At last, the doors to the core chamber loomed ahead. They were massive, carved from black steel thicker than a battleship's hull. The Marines placed charges, blasting them open with a roar that shook the chamber. Inside lay the heart of the eclipse. A colossal sphere of energy floated in the center, glowing with the light of stolen stars. Arcs of plasma cracked across the walls, feeding into the weapon that could destroy worlds. The chamber pulsed like a living thing, breathing with power. Malik's voice was steady. "This is it. Plant the charges. End this monster." As the Marines rushed forward, defenders poured in from hidden passages. The chamber became a storm of fire. Blades clashed, rifles roared, Dreth war cries echoed as they cut their way through. One by one, charges were placed around the core. But the defenders pressed harder, and the strike team began to fall. Marines screamed as plasma tore through them. Dreth warriors were dragged down under waves of enemies. Malik herself was hit, a beam scorching across her side. She stumbled, falling against the rail. Pain flared, but she forced herself up. Her voice roared through the comms. "The charges are set. Fall back." But then she saw the truth. The charges alone would not be enough. The core was too strong. The weapon would survive unless someone stayed behind to trigger the overload manually. She knew what had to be done. Malik staggered to the controls at the base of the core. Her hands moved quickly, overriding the locks. The Marines shouted at her, voices breaking through the comms. "General! No! Come with us!" She smiled faintly, though blood streaked her armor. "No, someone has to stay. Someone has to make sure this ends." Her last words rang clear. "Tell Kane, humanity does not kneel." The Marines were dragged out by Dreth warriors as the doors sealed shut. Inside, Malik stood alone, her body lit by the glowing core. She pressed the final command. The charges armed. The countdown began. Outside, in the void, Admiral Elias Kane watched from the Atlas as the Eclipse's core flared with wild light. His heart clenched, knowing what it meant. Malik had stayed behind. "Bring the fleets back," Kane ordered. "Pull everyone away." The Eclipse shuddered, its black armor splitting with fire. Energy screamed outward, ripping through its hull. For a moment, the fortress looked like a dying star. Then it exploded. The blast lit the void brighter than a sunrise. Shockwaves tore through the battlefield, flinging wreckage across space. Council fleets scattered in panic, their formation broken. The Allies pressed forward, driving them into retreat. When the light faded, the Eclipse was gone, nothing but ash drifting in the dark. On the Atlas, silence fell across the bridge. Every soldier knew what had been sacrificed. But they also knew what had been saved. Earth still lived. Humanity still stood. Kane's voice was quiet but strong. "Today, the Council tried to break us. They brought their greatest weapon, and we destroyed it. Not because we are many. Not because we are mighty. But because we do not kneel. Humanity does not kneel." His words spread across every channel, reaching every ally, every colony, every world that dared to listen. And the galaxy listened. The Dreth clans roared in victory, swearing eternal brotherhood with humanity. The Vayari fleets cheered, their traders declaring freedom from the Council's chains. Even Kalari rebels raised their banners high. Across the stars, races long crushed by fear now saw a new path. The Council had not only lost a weapon. They had lost their hold on the galaxy. The war was not over, but it would never be the same again. Humanity had stood tall against the greatest power in the stars, and won. In the quiet after the battle, Kane stood alone, staring out at the wreckage of the eclipse. He thought of Malik, of the Marines who had fallen, of every sacrifice made. He whispered into the silence, "We will carry you with us. Every step, every fight, until the galaxy is free." And with that, humanity's war for survival became something greater. A war not just to live, but to lead. The humans had ended the negotiations. The Council had answered with war. But in the end, it was humanity who gave the galaxy hope. And the galaxy would never forget.